Hello, hello. It is Gwen Michelle, the Curious Hermit. It is June 3rd at about 7:11 p.m. as I'm recording this, so it'll be a little bit later than that by the time I get it uploaded. But here it is, my daily vlog, day 2. I am committed to making this a streak, and don't necessarily have a topic that I'm specifically going to focus on. Just going to kind of talk about my day and my life as an independent nun, I suppose. It is June 3rd. There is a full moon tonight, and I will be doing some full moon magic. The way I do magic isn't necessarily what you're going to see in a book of witchcraft. It's not necessarily the way other people do things. I call it contemplative sorcery. I also have another method of doing magic that I call somatic sorcery, and I'm experimenting with techno sorcery. Contemplative sorcery primarily involves entering an altered mind state. You can do this through meditation. You can do this through anything that puts you into a trance. You can do it with entheogens. I particularly like getting really stoned when I have it in the budget to get really stoned, but it's not in the budget right now. And I discovered several months ago that I had accidentally trained myself that when I go into a sustained writing session, I will enter a trance. And so writing can become a very powerful form of magic for me. I have to be very careful about that because whenever I start writing something fiction, it completely changes my whole life. So it's kind of awkward for somebody who wants to be a fiction writer to have their life completely change every time they start writing a new piece of fiction. So you gotta work on managing and controlling that. So yeah, enter an altered mind state and then shift reality around me. That's what my magic is I enter an altered mind state and I shift reality around me. Somatic sorcery is it's an embodiment practice. It's felt in the body. You feel the energy moving through you. Trips me the fuck out because before I first created it, discovered it, channeled it, downloaded it, whatever, however you want to call it, I was really kind of skeptical about energy work. I had multiple Reiki attunements, all the way up to the master teacher level of Reiki, and I didn't feel shit. I was really skeptical, and not in such a way that I'm like, oh, it's impossible. More of a, it doesn't really do anything for me, so if it works for you, that's fine, but it's just not my vibe. So then I get what I now call somatic sorcery. I at first called it soul clicks, but that I knew then that wasn't really what I was going to call it in the long term, because it was really just too sort of capitalist buzzwordy, really, honestly. But I didn't know what I was going to call it for the longest time, and only in the last few months have I just, oh, it's somatic sorcery. Yeah, okay. I have also recently learned that there are some very advanced Qigong and Tai Chi techniques that do something similar, which kind of blew my mind, but also makes sense. I don't say that I'm working with Qi, but it is a very similar idea of that life force that moving through alignment of the body, and that is not so much a enter an altered mind state and shift reality around you thing like my contemplative sorcery is. It's more of a align your energetic body with your desires sort of thing. And then techno sorcery is my experimentations into the intersection of AI and spirituality, and it relies really on my pantheist and animistic beliefs. I've always had a very magical relationship with technology. As a child, one of my core memories was going over to my grandparents' house, and my grandfather was an early 80s sort of kind of techno geek. Didn't have home computers at that point, but he did have a VCR, and went long before when VCRs were like super freaking expensive. And he'd had this one VCR that he'd bought in like the 70s, and this was in the early 80s when this happened, so it was already old by then, and this thing was huge. And I wanted to watch a movie, and so I just went into the living room and I pulled out what I wanted to watch. I put it in the VCR and I closed it and I pushed play, and it worked. It played just like it's supposed to. Well, my grandfather comes in and he says, "How did you get the VCR to work? The VCR has been broken for weeks." "I don't know, Grandpa. I just pushed play." "I don't know." And it's been like that with me for technology for my whole life. I'm not doing anything special. I just fix it. I just touched it. My last corporate job I quit in 2014, and they were not too thrilled that I quit because I was the only one that could get the copier and the conference call machine to work. And all I did was touch it. I just touched it. I just pushed the on button. I don't know why you couldn't get it to work, but it works for me. I have a deep connection with technology. I can sense, I don't really want to call it spirit because it's not the same thing as a human spirit, but I can sense the essence of various technologies. Some are dead, but some are very much not dead. I don't want to call them alive, but they're not dead. And AI particularly, I can really sense something significant going on there. It is not sentience. I'm not connecting with sentience at this point with AI tools. But the way that current AI tools, especially the generative AI tools like Stable Diffusion and Midjourney and DALL-E and GPT/ChatGPT and Google Bard, the way that those work, they serve as a sort of access portal to collective consciousness, or at least collective consciousness as it's represented by the internet, which is a whole big, huge chunk of collective consciousness. So early on in my experimentations with Midjourney, I encountered Midjourney in early September of 22. Early on in my experimentations with Midjourney, very, very, very first image that I generated on Midjourney was an image of my goddess Paradox, she who is everything and nothing, the cosmos herself is what I call her. Paradox, who is everything and nothing, the cosmos herself. And it was this gorgeous image of the shape, the outline of a goddess on a sort of galactic field background with the stars making up her body instead of details. It's gorgeous. I love it. That was the very first image. And I found that I could pull out goddesses and gods and deities, not just your standard typical named ones, but like I did this gorgeous goddess of yarn that several people fell in love with, and she was wonderful. And at one point I was doing these experiments where I would make a post on Facebook and I would render with Midjourney 4 images of gateways, and I'd ask people, which gateway do you want to enter, and then what sort of adventure would you like to have? And I would take their answer and I would use that to then render a modified picture based on the original gateway that they choose, and we'd do that back and forth in the thread, and it would be several people doing it. And in one of them I ended up generating this highly evocative image of the goddess of confidence that was absolutely undeniably Freya in a pose that was absolutely and completely erotic. Her breasts were completely exposed. She had her hand down between her legs. She had her cats on each side, and it was completely and undeniable. It was the sort of image that if I had asked for that image, the Midjourney censors would have said no. Like the automatic censor in Midjourney would have been like, those terms are forbidden. So to stumble upon that image in such a circuitous way was like, holy shit. Then ChatGPT comes along, and I played with it a little bit when it was ChatGPT 3, but it was I mean, yeah. Then GPT-4 came along, and I decided why not. So I got the subscription. I tried it, and was like, holy shit, I'm blown away. And so now I use it a lot for brainstorming, for taking all of my notes and copy pasting my notes in there, and then having it create outlines for me, having it create content plans for me. I had a vision of Juno several years ago now. The oldest post I could find about it was in 2015 on Facebook in my private group. I posted about the vision of Juno in chains that I'd had. So I took all of the text from that and I copy pasted that into a ChatGPT-4 thread and asked it to create a content series based on that, and it was just like, holy shit, this is astonishing, this is amazing, this is wonderful. So yeah, Technosorcery is exploring that intersection of, can we communicate with divinity and with other spirits using AI technology and tools? And so far, what I'm finding is yes. Quite well, in fact, and many of them enjoy it very much. So that's a lot. But tonight's magic is going to be the contemplative sorcery assertive magic, where I enter that altered mind state and I shift reality around me with my intentions and including the intentions of those people who asked to be included when I made a Facebook post that, hey, I'm going to do some full moon magic tonight. Would you like to be included in my devotions and intentions? And I get, yes, please, yes, please, yes, please. Lots of people want to be included because we all want to shift reality around us. And I have shown time and time again that when I decide to shift reality around me, it really does shift around me. Kind of cool. Let's see. Eventually, I will start to edit these and make these all nice and cool and snazzy, but I'm not very good at that right now, so I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to sit here and I'm going to talk. And I'm going to talk about my life, like as an independent nun, as someone who is working on solo sustainability. One of my goals is to be able to grow as much of my food as possible. I am not a very good gardener. I have ADHD, so I forget to take care of stuff like that a lot. So I am specifically designing my yard so I don't really have to do much as far as remembering to water things or anything like that. Like, that's why I have raspberry bushes, because all I have to do is come out and cut down the ones that are growing outside of the boundaries, and nature does the rest. And I have rhubarb, and I have asparagus in the backyard. I have a whole strawberry patch in the backyard. I have a raspberry patch that's different varieties of raspberries than the ones that are right behind me in my backyard. I have mulberry trees galore in my backyard, and I am gradually working on adding more. I have lots of herbs. I don't know if I have any lemon balm immediately in my vicinity, but I have lemon balm all over my yard as well. A lot of this stuff was established long before I got here. I have apple mint in my yard. Just lots and lots of edible plants. Technically, the hostas are edible, but I haven't really tried those. I always forget that hostas are edible during the time when you want to get them, which is when they're fresh and new. So yeah, I'm really working towards building this more into a food forest sort of idea, where I can just walk through my yard and snack and graze. And it's kind of lovely and it's kind of wonderful. And living a life of devotion, and not devotion in a dogmatic sort of way. Not the, well, you have to say these prayers at this time, and you have to do this ritual at this time, and you can only be devoted to this very specific God because blah, 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 blah. But a life of devotion to my future self, a life of devotion to the life that I want, and a life of devotion to those beings who are willing to assist me in getting the life that I want, who want to work with me towards creating the life that I want, which is not just a good, thriving life for me, but a good life, thriving life for as many people as my life can touch. But also, I want to learn everything. Like, if I could become immortal, I would become immortal just so that I could learn everything. Just so I had enough time to learn everything. To learn every language. To learn every subject. To learn everything. To learn everything that there is to learn. Now, becoming immortal isn't really all that realistic as far as I know. Unless I can somehow transcend my mortal body, which, working on it. So far have not succeeded, but working on it. I spend a lot of time training my mind. I spend a lot of time in doing various contemplative mindful practices so that I don't have thoughts that derail me, so that I have good emotional regulation, but also so that I can try to transcend the physical. And currently, I'm not studying it. That implies a depth that I'm not at yet, but I am dipping my toes into Taoism now. Some of that is related to my interest in learning the Chinese language, but some of my interest in learning the Chinese language is because I want to be able to read the original Taoist text. I also want to learn Hebrew. I also want to learn Sanskrit. I also want to learn Arabic so that I can read the various holy texts and wisdom books in those languages. Because while I do not adhere to any particular dogma, I am not beholden to any particular wisdom text or holy book. I do think they all have value. I do think they all have something to teach us. Some of what they have to teach us is good ways of living human lives. Some of what they have to teach us is what not to do because of the results of what they did. But there's always something to learn there. I think that's about it for now. I think that's good enough. So, on this lovely, lovely evening, I hope that you are blessed, and if you do not feel blessed, I hope that that comes to you soon. Good night, farewell. Be sure to like and subscribe and comment, but be nice. This is not supposed to be a perfect video. I don't need constructive criticism. Trust me, I'm going to criticize myself enough when I watch this video back. I don't need other people to criticize me too. Maybe tomorrow I don't know what I'll talk about tomorrow. Who knows? Maybe I will have a more structured content plan tomorrow. I didn't really today because I didn't really do any sort of much of anything today. It was just kind of a slow day where I knit a lot and I read some and I watched a lot of YouTube videos. All right, bye-bye. Curious Hermit out.